Your attention please. Down Under from Darwin, part 2, that is the journey from Broome via the Pilbara to Perth, starts 10 seconds from now. It was a great trip, travelling from Darwin all the way down under to Perth by road during September and October 2001. Travelling via the Kimberleys, Broome and the Pilbara, it was almost 8,000 kilometres. Far too much for one video, so part 1 covers the first 9 days travelling from Darwin to Broome. In part 2 we will travel almost 5,000 kilometres from Broome via the Pilbara to Perth. Over 10 wonderful days. So let's go. Part 1 of the video Down Under from Darwin ended in Broome at Cable Beach, where we watched the far famed sunset. But we headed out bright and early next morning to do the 600 kilometre drive to the southwest all the way down the coast to Port Hedland.
I'm not sure what time do we get there roughly to Carol? About 5ish this afternoon roughly. But we've got 600 odd kilometres to do, and about the only thing between here and the 600 kilometres is 2 roadhouses. There's not a lot. So we'll get up and make a mile. We're stopping I think for one of Carol and Gary's bush cuppers again sometime this morning. Are we at Sandfire for lunch? Yes. Sandfire Roadhouse for lunch. And Pardue Roadhouse for afternoon tea.
Being realistic, I guess you couldn't call it the most exciting drive in the world. The only real change came every now and again when the long straight road disappearing to the distance actually had a bend in it. But it does really convey the huge distances to be travelled in this wide open country of ours. This recently completed thin strip of bitumen has really opened up the northwest, allowing the road trains and heavy transporters to bring goods north which would never have been possible in years gone by.
No music, no videos.
There goes McCafferty's tour, non-stop to Perth. Every day of the week they run a non-stop tour from Perth to Darwin and from Darwin back. Carol leads the chorus in helping pass the time.
Heading north. You only get that on a road like this size. Have a look at this one coming up.
It is now common practice to road freight prefabricated buildings into remote mining communities. It has made all the difference to the living conditions on site. And here comes more of them. This is really doing it the hard way. The Indian Ocean and 80-mile beach is way over there somewhere.
We'll work on, something like up past 12, 12:30, something like that. Give or take a couple of minutes, we're not rushing you at all. But as I said, if we're ready, we'll go. If it's 5 minutes later, whatever, it's no drama. Does that sound all right with everyone? Half past 12?
We're all feeling right ready for lunch now.
The last time I was at this roadhouse, a little bit rough and ready.
Welcome to Sandfire.
Yeah, this roadhouse knows we're coming, so that's right. The toilets are just in behind this little brick fence. Okay, they used to have peacocks up here, but there's... Is there peacocks there?
Sandfire was indeed a welcome stop in the middle of the 609 kilometres between Broome and Port Hedland. Sandfire is really out in the sticks. To the northwest there is about 80 kilometres of spinifex and low scrub, sand dunes, not much else, all the way to the Indian Ocean. To the east there is almost 1,000 kilometres of the great sandy desert. At first I thought, why peacocks in this desolate place? Then suddenly, of course, the reason was clear. They were part of the staff. They were fed by the tourists, and after tourists had gone, they became the unpaid garbage collectors. Leaving Sandfire, we will head due west towards the coast, but still 300 kilometres to Port Hedland. On the road again, that long straight ribbon of bitumen just seemed to go on forever and ever. The daily coach going to Darwin, and a brief afternoon tea pause at the only other waterhole before Port Hedland. You really couldn't go past the Pardue Roadhouse and Tavern. And it's here that McCafferty's southbound coach from Darwin to Perth catches up with us after their much longer lunch break at the Sandfire Roadhouse. Think about it, using the most direct route, it's just over 4,000 kilometres in just over 2 days, stopping only for meal breaks. From the Pardue Roadhouse, it was still 150 kilometres further west to Port Hedland.
The pearling industry was short-lived down this way, and everybody, all the pearl luggers, moved up to Broome.
Some town history en route to Port Hedland about the lifting of
the iron ore embargo in the 1960s, which saw the town boom, and as I said, that's its major industry today. Now, iron ore was discovered quite a way before 1960, but with this embargo being placed on iron ore and exporting it overseas and so forth, well, it wasn't worth anything to anyone in those days, so they needed that embargo to be lifted in order to make it profitable.
Not too sure what this fella's carrying. It's gravel. Looks like just road gravel, from what I can tell by the hole in the side there.
Salt production by solar evaporation of seawater is a major industry in Port Hedland. Salt is shipped around the world to be used extensively in the chemical industry and in the manufacture of aluminium, glass and many other products. This excellent flow diagram takes us all the way from the shipload at Port Hedland back through the storage area, the crystallisation plant, the pickle pond, the brine ditch, all the way back to the concentration ponds and the intake pump station where the water is originally brought in from the Indian Ocean. It is a very simple production process operated on a huge scale.
Be able to tell that on the houses on your right hand side. We'll see some more of it afterwards too. There you go, very close, you can see all the stockpiles. They try to keep it wet, or a bit damp anyway, to stop the some of the dust. Actually, one of those conveyors is working there on the front left hand side. I just saw some, gets this funny red colour to it. Has to be washed before anything else can be done with it. There's a ship in, I can see him on the left there. Oh, there you go, look, there's a salt pile on your left hand side there, the Cleopatra Dream. I don't know about dreaming about that one. We'll go and have a look and see what we can see. Admission to port area. Whoops.
Road in front of us, straight up the path there, and so it's not a side tipper. It opens up from underneath. The road trains do. Each trailer just opens up underneath. The salt drops out onto the conveyor belt there. Off it goes. And I'm not sure whether the Cogold Salt Company, they work 7 days a week or not. Generally, most things are.
A large bulk carrier is silhouetted against the late afternoon sun, loading iron ore at the loading jetty, and panning to the right we show the entry corridor between the breakwaters where the big ships come in from the open sea. The port, with its huge stockpiles of iron ore, reclaimers and shiploaders, totally dominates this part of the town.
Bit of a closer look at the iron ore up there to your right.
Just to a certain depth to to accommodate the ships coming in and out.
With the aid of a tugboat, an empty bulk ore carrier enters the shipping channel to load iron ore at the ship loader at the end of the channel, which also means a laden vessel is about to leave. Way out to sea, more vessels ride at anchor awaiting their turn. Our motel was perfectly placed on the Port Hedland waterfront, looking straight out to sea. It was a very comfortable motel, and our coach was comfortably parked right there below the control tower for Port Hedland, from which all those ships out at sea and in the port get their instructions by radio to leave or come in. And as the sun sinks in the west, the fully laden ship with its cargo of iron ore heads out to sea to start its long journey north, probably to Japan. Early next morning there were now 3 ships at anchor offshore, waiting their turn to be called in to the loading jetty. It was very quiet in town as we prepared to leave Port Hedland and start our journey inland to Marble Bar, and beyond Marble Bar to the town of Newman, where we'd stay 2 nights. At the loading jetty things were still very, very quiet. There seemed to be no activity at the loaders, but all the conveyors were poised. Some were delivering iron ore into the stockpiles, but I couldn't see a ship being loaded.
The world's longest privately owned railway, that's from Mount Whaleback, Newman, through to here. I think it's some 426 odd kilometres, and all bar 30 of it is downhill. So that's a length of some of the trains. Hopefully we'll see along the way. Stop and get some photos of. There's a cargo of salt that we're going to unload onto the conveyor belt in town. Looking at the weight there, he's allowed to carry around about 72 tonne, I think, of salt if he can get that much on. That's a legal road limit.
$152 kilometres to morning tea and lunch.
At Marble Bar.
Throwing stones in. Get that jewel when we get home. By the time we get there, it'll split anyway, I would say.
It will.
Yeah, but it won't do any harm. I mean, based on that once.
No, you're right. You stay where you are. I'm getting out of your eyesight now that I'm all
But the boss is inside, drinking wine with his mind on.
They just bought morning tea.
Oh, okay.
And then there, after they come out.
Oh, you get off and you get off.
This doesn't look good. That road coming up. Great. Richmond back, but for how long?
I couldn't see this one, but I can see that one.
got anything inside?
No, it's empty. Girls under the same impression too.
Yeah, that bit of dirt's a lot shorter than when I was here 2 months ago.
Yeah.
That's been bitumised too, because
That's really marble there.
I think it is.
I reckon they were about as interesting as watching grass grow.
Yeah, they've been cleaning up here too.
Great.
Yeah, must be able to do something.
The new bitumen had taken us through the mountain, and we would have well-graded but unsealed roads for some distance now.
This road coming up here on your left-hand side is what we have to come back to. 8 kilometres to Marble Bar. What we'll do when we do get there, everyone, we'll go to the travel stop for Travellers Rest. And that's where we have our morning tea. Toilet stop. Okay, and then we'll back on the coach. We'll drive through the township itself. A bit of a drive through there, point out a few buildings, etc. through there. On our way to the bar. Have a look at the bar. We'll splash some water around on some rocks for you, and we'll be making our way back to the Travellers Rest for lunch. Looks like a car taxi heading into town. Yep. Cattle off to market.
Mistakenly taken by the Europeans to be marble. So what we're going to do is, after we've had a cup of tea this morning, we're going to go out to this Jasper bar, which is on the Coongan River. We crossed the Coongan River half hour ago. We'll cross it again, or have a look at it down here at Marble Bar, and we'll see the piece of rock, the Jasper. What of this is a highly coloured variety of quartz, as I said, mistakenly taken for a marble. Pretty rough and ready town, this one. They have been busy though, the roads, people have been busy. Pretty well put a few dollars on that, but we won't find too much sealed road. Yeah, 20 odd minutes or so, toilets and that I think are inside, Carol?
Go inside, then round to the right.
An expensive part of the world to travel, unleaded petrol was $1.23 a litre. But the little cafe was fine.
Are there many Aborigines in here?
Well, is there? Quite a few Aboriginals. I haven't seen too many. There's a civic centre there on the left-hand side. Now, where's the original government offices? Are they still down a bit further? I knew they were there somewhere. Okay, I knew they were here. Now this particular, I don't know if anybody knows a lady called Gina Reinhardt.
Sure do.
The iron ore industry. Gina, I'm just trying. Hang on, we'll just move back a bit. Carol's just going to have a look at the plaque.
Okay, it just says there, the acknowledgement, the research and location of graves represented on the memorial were undertaken by Mr. Len Lever of Marble Bar. His determination and generous financial support has assisted too greatly towards the completion of the project in the centenary year of the town. The establishment of the memorial wall was made possible by the generous support of Mrs. Gina Reinhardt and Hancock Prospecting Proprietary Limited in honour of Langley George Hancock, crikey, I now found his first name, whose vision and tenacious energy discovered the Pilbara iron ore fields, which are recognised as one of the most significant events in the history of the state of Australia. It's in alphabetical order. So the first surname up there is Adol, Bussell Ben Adol, and the last one up there is Tom Williams, 1891.
Government offices which were constructed between the years of 1894 and 1895. Okay, it'll come around the corner here, you'll see them, but on the right you've got the ironclad hotel. Boats which used to sail up and down the Mississippi during the American Civil War.
Monitor in the mirror.
In the roadhouse we were just at, there is a picture of that there. So it's still pretty well as it is. Police station's up that way too. Courthouse, yes. Not bad for the middle of nowhere, is it? So we're talking 107 odd years old. mistaken name of Marble Bar, and you'll see what we mean when we get out of it. It's just, well, if I come through for the first time, I would have thought it was marble as well. We'll throw some water on this bar of Jasper Bar, and we'll see some colours come out when we throw some water on. There have been some large gold finds out here, but very short-lived. Now you can see some Jasper there on the right-hand side. Now it says here as we're going in, this is a class reserve.
What if we find that big nugget of gold here?
Just leave it.
Yes, the Jasper did really look great when some water was thrown on it.
It's a local swimming hole.
So we know that.
So no humidity. Humidity's just about gone now.
Yeah, oh yeah. So where is it? There. You just fish out.
The Aboriginal children are having a wonderful time. The Koonjin River provides a magnificent waterhole for these children to play in. Marjorie got a great photo. These children were having great fun. What a scenic setting. No wonder the children of Marble Bar really love this place. This young bull had had a nice drink from the river, but sadly he limped away really lame. Just look at that wonderful smile. Sadly, it is time to go. We've first got to have lunch and then we have many kilometres ahead of us yet.
So they race over to the bus again, they will. No shoes on through the Spinifex bush.
Amazing.
At the Ironclad Hotel, you can purchase a broth if you like, or a brew. Bar has had that in the past, and it is, well, as I said, we're in the middle of nowhere, and very tidy town. It's nice.
Really?
If you want to stay.
No, thank you.
You don't want to stay, Tom?
No worries.
Where's your sense of adventure?
No.
Anyone want to stop and take a photo here of the old government buildings? You would like to?
This would have been a busy spot in the old days. Within 50 kilometres or so of Marble Bar, there are a host of copper, silver, lead, zinc and gold mines, including the famous Comet gold mine, which was reputed to have the highest smokestack in the southern hemisphere, at some 75 metres or 225 feet high. These would be most impressive colonial buildings for any country town. But for a remote place like Marble Bar, it is truly amazing that such magnificent structures were built. And in the garden here we saw our first sturt desert pea, to emphasise that we were in fact in remote Western Australia. And the only place the Ironclad Hotel could be was in hot Marble Bar, where emu export lager was an essential part of life. After all, 160 days of century plus heat in degrees Fahrenheit set in 1923-24 makes it indisputably Australia's hottest spot. It was 40 degrees centigrade or 102 degrees Fahrenheit today, and in the tourist centre here were the kids finding the ideal way to cool down by mucking out the freezer in the centre of the store. definitely Australia's hottest town, but outside Greg was timing himself on the run to the restaurant where we had lunch. He said he just had to keep fit, but at 40 degrees centigrade, wow.
Plenty of road trains coming along.
Dog catcher too.
Yep. Dirt road now. We've got a dusty afternoon ahead of us. Thank goodness the road trains are going the other way at this stage. We'll slow down, and because they're not real scared of us, and sometimes you can even go past in a coach and they'll still just stay there. He's gone, and if he moves, he's eating a kangaroo, he's having a good feed.
Hold on a minute.
Yep.
Excuse me.
You're going to sit here, I'm going to keep eating. The other one's up in the tree there.
You getting it, Noel?
Yep.
You getting?
Yeah, you got him.
Good, good. So I remembered.
For those down the back who want to come and have a look, come down, Anne, if you like. We go much closer and he'll take off, so that's why we're just sitting here for a second.
Now what is that?
It's a wedge-tailed eagle.
Yeah, but what are they eating?
Kangaroo.
Kangaroo, dead one.
That's Australia's largest bird of prey. There's a wingspan of up to 3 metres. Won't go that far. They'll sit in the bush.
He's a bit heavy.
Yeah, they only just found him by the look of it.
Yeah.
They haven't got
He's
a lot.
gone. I think that's the female showing off there for a photo. We got one?
Yep.
Often NT. Depends on what the road conditions.
Got the sharp tip.
It was a long haul over mostly good dirt roads all the way to Nullagine, the only other town before we get to Newman.
Bit of an idea, there's not many here.
That's town.
We're already halfway through our town too, we haven't even seen anything. This is the roadhouse come, well, what they call it, superstore. They have post office inside, I think it's agents for the bank. What we do when we get to Newman is nothing. We'll go straight to a motel. I'm sure I think you would have had enough ride today. Carol will tell you all about what we're doing tomorrow when we get closer. Hang on again.
192 k's to Newman. An unexpected dip in the road had some water in it, probably from a recent shower. And at the top of the hill we came across Royal Mulla, one of the many species, but certainly the most attractive one. Most mullas are prolific seeders and provide spectacular shows of flowers, particularly after good summer rains. Royal Mulla is a low perennial shrub, growing to about 1 metre tall. The flower spikes, up to 10 centimetres long, are bright pink and cylindrical. Plants flower for many months, the colour eventually fading to white.
come down, that's why he's sitting there. Be a bit of a double line there. He's loaded, ready to head up to Port Hedland.
He's going from Mount Whaleback into Port Hedland. It is the world's longest privately owned railway, 426 kilometres. And as they say, all bar 30 kilometres is downhill. Looks like they've got a carriage in the middle of this one as well, and then more behind they'll have. Engine, yeah. We'll get a chance on our days through to Karratha, Tom Price and that, to get photos of this. So each one of those carriages has about 115 tonne of payable iron ore on it. There's a train on the other side of it too, or some carriages anyway. Each locomotive I think costs around about $50 million. Yeah, I come through here several weeks ago and there was one train with 238 carriages, and that's by no means the largest. Yeah, one's going in and one's going out. So the one that's loaded has stopped currently. Unloaded going in once he's passed. The loaded one will head out. There was another one in front of us too, an empty one in front going in as well. Unless it's could be all the same one. Yeah, same one. Yeah, no, that's halfway in. Yeah, that'll be the train up in front. They range between averages, I think, about 2.3 kilometres in length, but they have been known to get up very close to 3 kilometres in length, the train. It looks like we've finally made it. We're not far, only 25 kilometres out of Newman itself. As we said earlier, we're just going to go straight into the motel, drop you off, let you settle down and relax. Carol, no doubt on the way in shortly, will tell you what's happening tomorrow, but you get a bit of a sleep in, I believe.
There you go. Anybody counting the carriages? That's good, because you couldn't see the tail end anyway. So that way it'll be out tomorrow morning at 10 to 10. Yep, that's right, on the coach at 10 to 10, and then we'll be head off and go and do our mine tour.
Next morning, there was time for a stroll through the motel's very attractive garden. Being such a warm part of the world, it was inevitable that bougainvilleas should figure prominently in the plantings in this garden, and it certainly was a picture. But the garden also featured extensive plantings of roses, in many different varieties and a multitude of colours and forms. With roses being heavy consumers of water, I was surprised to see such extensive plantings in this very arid part of the world, but they were thriving. They attracted many bees to this garden. The bees were really busy. There just has to be a very happy beehive somewhere nearby. This red bloom was popular, but this white one seemed to be a no-go zone. I'm not sure whether these two bees were working as a team effort, or whether they were fighting over the one delightful spot to dine. Whatever the reason, it was certainly frenetic activity, and I just hope the rewards justified all the effort. This bee looks as though it has two dining choices. This rose is almost perfect. But back to more mundane things. The late start meant it was a good time to catch up with all that overdue washing. Then it's off to see what this big iron ore mine is all about. And if this one doesn't carve you back to size, I don't know what will. Now let's see where we are. We travelled from Broome to Hedland to Marble Bar, then onto the heart of the Pilbara at Newman. The dump truck made our big Mercedes coach look really puny, as did the shot hole drill on display and the big shovel used to load the dump trucks. We now reboard the coach to tour the mine.
On the left-hand side we've got our first two buildings. The first one being our original tourist centre, built in 1992. It is now our Pilbara Art in Action building, and it hosts all our local arts and crafts. The building next to it is our Silver Jubilee Museum Gallery, This was built in 1994 and opened by Premier Richard Court. Beyond the fence you can see a small truck, a shovel and a drill with a number 1 on them. This is indicating that they are the first of their kind. It is 5.5 kilometres long and it's 1.5 kilometres wide. The type of ore that we mine out of here, it's called Brockman hematite. It's a heavy blue dense material which you'll see here on your left and also on your right hand side. On the flat areas, the red and the gold colours, these are the types of ore that we mine out of our satellite ore bodies.
When the discovering geologists
came across iron ore, that is sent away samples to be assayed. They came back at 68.8%. This is a very high grade of ore. The highest grade of ore to be found anywhere else in the world is 70%.
the road line goes
To our port facility at Nelson Point. It is the longest privately operated railway line in the southern hemisphere. Coming up on your left hand side, you'll see a long building with a blue trim on it. This is occupational health and safety. It is manned 24 hours a day. It has an ambulance and a fire truck in there, and they're there in case we need them for first aid. Coming up on our left hand side, this is our tyre store. Now we hold about $1.5 million worth of tyres in our tyre store. Our haul truck tyres, they're worth about $25,000 each. They are 3.6 metres in diameter. They weigh up to 5 tonne with a steel rim inserted into those. Our tyres, they are Goodyear, Michelin and Bridgestone. They have a life expectancy of anything from 9 to 12 months. If you look up the top, you can see some bay numbers. In bay 9, those tyres, they go on our 994 cat loaders. They're worth about $35,000 each. If we're anywhere in the mine site and I notice a 994, I'll point it out to you. The next 3 trucks, the 147, the 148 and the 146. These are also 190 tonne haul trucks. They are Caterpillar trucks. They are American made, so they are left-hand drive. All of our haul trucks, if they start with a number 1, they're a 190 tonne. If they start with a number 2, they're a 240 tonne. This refers to the weight that this truck carries, not the weight of the truck. Fully loaded, those trucks, they weigh about 400 tonne. Mechanically driven, its gears are 6 forward and reverse. It also has power steering and it is air conditioned. Spain. Tell us whether it's American or French. There's a yellow building with lights on it. This is our primary crusher. Our haul trucks will come there fully loaded with high grade ore. They'll reverse up, wait for a green light. Once they get their green light, they will tip their tray and the ore will fall through the crusher. This primary crusher, it can crush rocks up to 1.5 meters in diameter. Once the ore falls through that crusher, it gets crushed down to a size of a football. It then will fall through the hill onto the conveyor belt, over the top of the road here, to the second building with the safety first sign on it. It then goes through a secondary crusher and gets crushed down to a size of a grapefruit or an orange. The ore then travels along the conveyor belt to the right hand side and it goes to our next building. This is our sampling station. Every hour a mechanical arm will come out, take a sample of that ore and drop it into a bucket. Then someone from our laboratory will come across and take that bucket away for assaying. The ore then travels along the conveyor belt to the right hand side and it goes to those 2 stockpiles that you can see. And 13 gravity-fed chutes will drop from the roof of this tunnel and fill each ore car 110 to 115 tonnes of ore. This then gets repeated 13 ore cars at a time until this train is fully loaded. It will now be in excess of 32,000 tonnes. Okay, here on our left-hand side, those 4 brown buildings at the rear, this is our beneficiation plant. It is a means of separation of ore from waste. That white building you see, this is our original crusher. It's about 30 years old. It's now only used as a backup for the primary crusher that I spoke to you about on the right-hand side here. Okay, on your right-hand side out in the distance there, it's called girthite limonite. It's a very soft ore. It is 61%. It's almost like talcum powder. Now as we come around the corner here, you'll get a better view. There it is there. That's it.
We're now standing on the rim of Mount Whaleback with the open pit behind us and looking down over the ore handling, beneficiation and treatment plant and the iron ore onto rail truck loading facility, which then takes it all that long way to the coast. With so much iron ore dust in the air, I guess it was inevitable that everything in the picture becomes a varying shade of red. This is the heart of the ore handling and beneficiation process at Mount Whaleback. Essentially it's a fairly sophisticated separation of the things they want from the things they don't want, to make the iron ore higher grade and more suitable for the consumer overseas to produce the highest possible quality of steel. Turning around, we cross the road and there is the open cut. This is where the iron ore comes from. This is the nerve centre for the entire operation. All the shovels and dump trucks are computer monitored with data feeding direct back by radio to this control tower. So they know everything that happens as it happens and can control the whole pit operation from this one central point.
And it can basically tell you everything about that truck. So who is driving, where they are in the mine site, how much oil they're carrying, how much fuel.
The bucket of this shovel has a 65-ton bite capacity. The shovel has started to loosen the face, waiting for an empty truck to arrive. But it's a long trek, and keeping the shovel loading and the trucks moving is the key to productivity in such a huge operation as this. Road graders are constantly regrading the travelling road to make sure the trucks can move freely and fast.
Now we do have Australian road rules that apply on this mine site, with one exception. Anything bigger than us, we must give way to. We predict in about 35 years' time they would have gone down to bench 48.
Our guide is saying that once the ore body is fully mined out, and which will then be way below the water table, they will cease pumping water out of the pit, which is filling it up now, and let it fill, and it will then become Lake Whaleback instead of Mount Whaleback.
When they get it ready for blasting, they would have put a ton of ampho into each one of those holes. This is ammonium nitrate and diesel fuel.
put 6% of diesel fuel to ammonium nitrate. The travel going up that hill at about 8 kilometres will be loaded. They go up and down to about 42 k's empty on the way down.
Travelling at 8 kilometres per hour, the fully laden truck will take about 35 minutes to get to the dump hopper into the treatment plant, which is about 5 kilometres away. And all the activity in this, one of the largest open pit mining operations in the world, is radio controlled from the control centre on top of the hill, which we had visited earlier.
And I bet you've taken everything in.
And listen to that almost imperceptible change of gear as the truck goes up one gear when the grade of the hill coming out of the pit reduces slightly, and it can handle this 190 tonne load of ore a little more readily in that higher gear. And 5 kilometres away from the shovel, it finally arrives at the dump hopper. Constant dust suppression on the travelling roads is absolutely vital.
There's a water cart coming up behind us and a truck. Oh, in front of us, behind me, in front of you. Okay, coming up here on your right hand side, you can look into our crusher too. Sometimes our rocks, they can be a little bit to break up the rocks. See those two stockpiles that sit over the top of the train loadout tunnels? Now when the train goes through one of those tunnels and starts to reverse, if it's a full train, which is 220 ore cars, it takes about 80 minutes to fill this. Half a train, it takes about 40 minutes. Works out to be about 20 seconds per ore car.
The yellow things we
All of our conveyor belts, so replace them every 3 years, and they maintain them every 3 months.
Back at the motel in mid-afternoon, the garden looked wonderful and the pool looked really inviting because it was almost 40 degrees centigrade. Beautiful afternoon. Towards evening, we all went to the top of the Radio Hill Lookout, the highest point in town, where we got a great view of the city, and beyond to Mount Newman, a peak of 1,053 metres above sea level, which was named in 1896 after explorer Aubrey Woodward Newman. In 1957, a veteran prospector, Stan Hilditch, discovered the massive iron ore deposit of Mount Whaleback, 5 kilometres southeast of Newman. Atop Radio Hill, we planned to get a wonderful view of the mine site at Mount Whaleback with the sun setting behind it in the west, and to also have a get-together for nibbles and drinks to bid a rather sad farewell to Newman because we would be leaving the town next morning. It was a spectacular sight as the sun began to sink behind Mount Whaleback, and in the foreground were some magnificent specimens of mulla and cockroach bush. And as the sun set behind the distant Mount Whaleback mine site, the view was truly spectacular, and it became even more so a little later once the sun had actually gone behind Mount Whaleback and the halo of the setting sun sat above the mine. Next morning we were on our way early to the gorges of the Karajini National Park and then on to Tom Price for the night, with the iron-rich Hammersley ranges on both sides of the road. But this looks like trouble. We have a road train to overtake, and as you already know, we need a long straight to do that, 3 or 4 kilometres, and this is a windy road.
Don't panic again, he's doing a pretty quick speed, so if I've got to pull back, don't panic, which I'll do right now. So see we need about 3 or 4 kilometres to get past this fella.
So we just sat back and bided our time. Well, we finally got our long straight, and we've made it, and we're on our way again. The Hammersley ranges are really rich in iron, as the red colour of this cutting shows very clearly. We are now climbing into the plateau area of the Hammersley ranges to enter the state's second biggest national park, the 627,000 hectare Karajini National Park. Massive mountains and escarpments rise out of the flat valleys, and the high plateau is dissected by breathtaking gorges and stony tree-lined watercourses. This is a very ancient part of the earth where the slow process of erosion has carved the shape of the land out of rocks that are 2,000 million years old.
First explorer through this way was a gentleman by the name of F.T. Gregory.
We will see the visitor centre later, but we are now heading across the top of the plateau to see Dale's Gorge and the spectacular Fortescue Falls. It's only a short stroll to the edge of the gorge, but once you get there, the ruggedness of it is most impressive, and looking down, the people below seem like ants. It's really a long way down. And a long way back. Sunning itself on the ridge was
little fella. Little gecko.
Quite relaxed about us. There were quite a lot of wildflowers, not quite sure what this is, but believed to be the blue bush, I think. And this is a small mulla. This beautiful bloom, battling the strong wind, is Robinson's desert rose. But let's wander further along the gorge. There's a lot more to see yet. In places the gorge was precipitous and quite narrow, and at the bottom there were pools of water. But the impressive thing was the ruggedness of the gorge and the very flat plateau above it. In this very low rainfall country, it must have taken eons for the rivers to cut those deep gorges across the plateau. It was 1 kilometre return to Fortescue Falls, but let's go and see it. And there it is, it looks wonderful.
We're going to go to the visitor centre for a couple to get us set up with you. Looks alright, doesn't it?
A real surprise in this part of the world, because the high rainfall only occurs during the wet season, and right now is the end of the dry, and the heavy rain had not commenced yet.
Where's Greg gone down there, is he?
Good. With that wonderful waterfall right behind, this just had to be a good place to take some portrait shots. Hi Eastonia. And this rocky plateau produced some quite amazing wildflowers. This unimpressive looking bush with the interesting seed pod on it, it may be the honey hakea or cookwood tree. Seed pod of the cockroach bush, small pincushion shaped yellow flowers, and a furry leafed small bush with very pretty blue flowers. This is such a pretty blue flower with the yellow centre. I'm sorry we don't know the name of it. This is the limestone cassia. But it's time to go and head across country to the Karajini National Park Visitor Centre for a quick picnic lunch. And here we found more spectacular blooms of the Robinson's desert rose. These remarkable desert flowers can be as large as 10 centimetres across. I don't know what these strange seed pods are from. This is another most aptly named cockroach bush. It really does look like cockroaches, doesn't it? But we're now headed right across the plateau to the other side of the Karajini National Park to Ox's Lookout. Dirt roads all the way, and there was the occasional steep rocky grade to traverse. But once we got there, the superb outlook made every kilometre well worthwhile. It was about 300 metres to the Oxer Lookout. Once there, the view to the gorge was beyond belief.
Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? This part over there, I think I was going to look at that.
This is magnificent.
Oh, it's worth the dirt road coming in, isn't it?
Oh, God.
I'm not big, I don't like dirt road unless there's something nice to see at the end. That's bloody beautiful.
From the second lookout, the gorge seemed to be more rugged and the view even more spectacular. A truly magic sight.
Not that one, no, this was a different one. I'll show you.
And from other vantage points on the cliff face, even better.
That was the caustic bush. Yeah, that was, yes. It looked like some ancient coral.
Yes, yes.
I see them in the shade.
Yep, caustic bush, yep. Someone down there? Yep.
Abundant wildflowers, of course. And our friendly gecko. But it is time to go. We now have a several 100-kilometre trek on dirt roads through the remainder of the Karajini National Park and the Hammersley Ranges area, heading to Tom Price, where we will spend the night. The red soil of the roads and the red of the mountains surrounding us show that the Hammersley Ranges everywhere has quite a lot of iron ore, but there's some very rich concentrations scattered throughout it. Mount Tom Price is where Hammersley Iron had its very large-scale open-cut mining operation.
Anyway, welcome to Tom Price.
Tom Price is a company-owned town, fully owned by the mining company, and we will be staying the night in the Karijini Lodge, which had previously been staff quarters.
Just pull up here behind this filling. It's Tourist Bureau here on the left-hand side.
A pleasant time to relax at the tourist centre, and while we were there, a rather inquisitive male magpie lark checked us out before hopping onto the ground to see if we could find to eat. I think he was hoping we might have brought him something. And it's off to the Karijini Lodge, tucked below Mount Tom Price, for the night. And this seems to me to be a good time to have a look at the map and figure out where we are. We're now in Tom Price, where we're going to stay the night, having started the day in Newman and having had a wonderful day in the heart of the Karijini National Park. But we're now back in Tom Price, and it seemed to me this would be a good time to have a coffee break and maybe call an intermission. So you can either pause now and look the rest of the tape a little later, or keep going. Please yourself.